Protesters from Greenpeace briefly disrupted a speech by British Prime Minister Liz Truss as she addressed the governing Conservative Party. Two activists held a banner saying, "Who voted for this?" as they chanted slogans voicing opposition to the government's support for fracking. The pair were quickly ejected from the venue by security before Ms Truss continued on with her address. The new leader has defended her controversial economic policies and promised to bolster defence and borders. She urged her fractured party to rally behind her to help transform the country. Now for more, Julia Chapman joins us live from London. Julia, she's promised to get the country through some stormy times, but did Ms Truss signal any major policy changes in her speech?
She didn't. This was a speech very much focused on defending the approaches that she has set forward in her first month as Britain's Prime Minister, as set forward in that budget that her Chancellor put forward just under 2 weeks ago, one that was met with significant market turmoil, concern amongst voters and even her own Conservative Party members. But she put forward this vision of the UK economy, which she imagines to be one now that will be low tax, low regulation, all things that she says will help grow the economy. She says she wants to get the country on a growth path to enlarge the pie so that everyone in the country gets a bigger share. But she didn't really acknowledge the reaction that that approach has had in the last couple of weeks. She did allude to the climb down, that U-turn that her government had to introduce earlier this week on cutting taxes for the highest paid in this country, the 45% tax rate, which she has now reintroduced after trying to remove it. She called that a distraction, but she was adamant that her overall philosophy of trying to cut taxes in order to grow the UK economy was a valid one, and one that she said would bring benefits to all of the people in the UK, no matter what level of the economy they are at. She did warn that there would be disruption. She said change brings disruption, but she insisted that that would be to the benefit of all British people.
Well, the Prime Minister's vision for the UK in that speech, it was very well received by the party faithful, Julia. But how is it going to go down with the rest of the country?
Well, there's still a lot of uncertainty about Liz Truss's position. She's not doing very well in the polls at all. Indeed, just before she began speaking, a YouGov poll was published showing that her favourability ratings are pretty dismal, not just across the entire country, but even within her own party. Conservative Party voters not looking terribly favourably on the first month of her leadership. Across the country, favourability only at 14%. Within the Conservative Party, it is at 30%. So she is certainly facing an uphill struggle when it comes to convincing the British people that hers is the right approach. But she defended that position, insisted that it would work, and said she would stay the course. She also tried to deflect some of the economic problems onto other factors, blaming the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine for pushing up inflation, putting pressure on the UK economy. And she also hit back at what she called the anti-growth coalition, opposition politicians, what she called militant unions. There have been a lot of strikes in the UK over the last few months, as well as those green activists who were protesting in her speech. She said that they were all trying to bring growth down, but she insists that she will bring it up and ensure that there is fairness across the country for all people. But there are really big concerns about how she will pay for these tax cuts. She was very light on detail about that. She is expecting to put more of that forward next month when her Chancellor explains this economic plan that the government is trying to approach. But certainly still huge question marks remain about where this money will come from, particularly as government debt, the cost of borrowing for the government is rising right now.
The Prime Minister clearly still faces an upward climb. Julia, thank you very much for that. Julia Chapman there in London.